and welcome to a August 27th edition of the MSP Initiative MSP Talk podcast. End of the summer here. A lot of people's kids are already back in school. I know my kids go back to school next week, so a little late in this calendar, but all good. We'll do a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll get into what the fall looks like and where we are in technology land and bringing new guests on the show and all of that jazz. So buckle up, and here we go. MSPinitiative.com. That's where we post all these, recorded podcasts on, links to our YouTube and podcatchers and all that good stuff. Like, download, subscribe, forward, do all the good stuff. Fall schedule for us here at MSP Initiative. Well, we are kicking off the Channel Sports Tour again, just a little bit bigger this year. So if you go to MSPinitiative.com, you will find a list of all of the NFL games that we are hosting MSPs at this year. And there is a expanded and longer list than we did from our inaugural year. So if you're in Australia or New Zealand, your cousins from the other side of the ocean there, Rams at 49ers, first NFL game in Australia. So we're excited for that. It's about 2 weeks or so out. So looking forward to that first game. And then just got to rattle them off. Cowboys at Giants, Steelers at Patriots, Vikings at Bucks, Eagles at Bears, Cowboys at Texans, Eagles at Jags in London. So if you're on the other side in Europe, we're coming to you as well. Steelers at Bucks, Chargers at Rams, 49ers at Cowboys. That's the schedule for this year. So we're super looking forward to seeing MSPs in all of those cities. And if you're in an NFL city, you're already probably in a major population center. So thank you, NFL, for doing all that homework for all of us. So that is the Channel Sports Tour. We have one more remaining community block party this year. That is in Australia. So if you're headed to Kaseya Connect APAC in Sydney, we are doing our last community block party of the year in Darling Harbour, right next to the ICC, which is the convention center right there in the thick of things, next door to where the conference is at. So please put your name on the list, free to attend. You'll find the information up on mspinitiative.com. All right. That is all the housekeeping. That is the plan for the rest of the year. For the first time, we bring a new name to the pod, Jason from Aura. How you doing, Jason?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Welcome for the first time to the show.
Yeah.
Of course, every time we bring somebody new onto the show, we always do do a little bit of backwards through memory lane, get a little bit of history on you and, what brought you to technology land. And then obviously we'll get into the current day stuff. Go for it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I started in the kind of security probably about 10 or so years ago. Started out with, secure web gateways, moved into endpoint security, spent some time in there, and moved over to kind of the fraud and identity theft protection space here at Aura. And it's been great because like you think about the personal identity and the theft that occurs on a daily basis, like it's always, I call it slightly recession proof, right? It's one thing where, as as economy gets tough, threats go up and, you got to maintain the kind of the personal security around it. So, Aura has been a fantastic business to be a part of and kind of watching it grow and develop as from employee benefits to MSP to D2C. It's been a fun time. I joined here back in September of last year and really started to kind of build the MSP business from scratch.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You think the identity theft space, you think like LifeLock commercials, and the remember that guy? It was the CEO of LifeLock at the time. He was like had one of those little billboard trucks rolling
Oh
around
yeah.
New York City with the social security number, and he was daring people to steal his identity. And it like happened like a dozen times or something.
Yeah. It was that backfired on him just a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
I'm
mean, it's really about, you bringing this, personal security side from a consumer standpoint, and you kind of bringing that technology married with, application blocking and MSP, security layers involved in understanding how to manage unmanaged devices, which is not a new thing for MSPs. That's always just been a hard thing for MSPs. And now we have an excellent alternative for them to be able to have better conversations with their customers about doing it. So pretty exciting.
interesting. I mean, let's go backwards and maybe zoom out for 5 seconds. So, you know, I know for a good run there, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years, right? COVID was in between all that. I know we always like distorts the timeline a little bit, but cybersecurity was, the billboard talk of the town, right? It was every conversation, every other word. Half the vendors at any, event that I saw basically were security vendors, right? And then, of course, the next fad comes up. Here we are in AI land, and that's front and center. But the cybersecurity thing obviously didn't go away. If anything, I think if you just jam those two topics together, it probably
Yeah.
got worse, if that's the right way to say it. In between what we see as MSPs, there's just reality, right? Like for the average person living, on the, in America or otherwise elsewhere, which is, hey, like everybody's, got their LinkedIn password or their social security numbers now. Yeah, I think one of the credit bureaus got hacked at one point. Everybody's social security numbers now, got exposed. Um, like there's still the everyday gotcha, text messaging, email phishing, all the other stuff that comes along with that. Like people didn't stop doing the bad things that they were doing normally, right? Reusing the same passwords, for all of their bank accounts, right? And you know, relying on their cell phone as their only security mechanism, which, current day, right? Not to jump too far into other topics, I think Microsoft just like almost overnight said, hey, yeah, we're going the passkey. We're no longer doing SMS or voice verification, as an option. Sorry, short notice, but we're drawing the line in the sand. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this stuff didn't go away. It kind of just became less front and center. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, and I think now the evolution of security is you got to think about the person behind the device as the new perimeter, right? So MSPs today, they do an unbelievable job at managing managed devices. It's easy to control. It's like I am a CISO of a company. I am an MSP that works very closely with that CISO, and they establish potentially a mutual security practice of who does what, and they've got some rules in place, but some of those rules quickly get thrown out the window when George shows up with an iPhone 17 and says, "Hey, I want Outlook on my phone because I'm special and I need to go between airport terminals and be nimble and fast and access business applications." And then what happens? An MSP and the CISO guy says, "Oh, sure, no problem. I'll just install, an MDM on your device and it's going to be great." Right. And now all of a sudden the employee goes, "Oh, yeah, I like that. However, uh, now all of a sudden I paid $1,000 for an iPhone 17, which was mine, which is now yours." Right. So like you sacrifice a lot of those privacy things. So you get a lot of pushback from employees that just don't want to do that. And then CISOs, they're in a difficult situation because they're not going to ship out, X number of brand new phones to people, and someone carries two phones sitting on their, at a coffee shop with two phones. So and then the alternative to what most of these MSPs are unfortunately have to sacrifice with is they have to do nothing. It's either they mandate no personal devices at all, or they have to just still apply the security to supply the right access to the business applications, but really no great security that goes on top of it. And so what they've been doing is use things like, Microsoft's mobile access management's been a pretty good alternative. When I surveyed a bunch of like Microsoft MSPs, it just seems to have a very low adoption rate, right? And the way that we kind of think about our business, not to get too far ahead, is we're kind of a great alternative to where you're going to get a high participation rate from the employee to want to sign up and say, yeah, like this is great because you're keeping my privacy separate from the business data, which is good. And then you get MSPs that go, okay, like I still have an opportunity to use the policies that are within mobile access management side, and I get to use this as a bridge to get this fraud and identity theft protection in the hands of the employees, right? Or I can use the policies within the Aura for Business platform, and I can just be a substitute because I don't want to go buy an E5 license for all of my customers.
Yeah, I mean, all right, let me rewind there for a second. So number one, I feel like there's never been great adoption of any MDM solution, to be
No.
totally honest. I think it's great punchline and good on paper, but single digit adoption as far as my experience has gone, and I've been around for a minute. So that's number one. Agree with you there. Two, um, if anything, there's been a revolt by the employee saying, I don't want any of your stuff on my personal cell phone.
Correct.
Like they just no, zero, not having it. Which makes it difficult because you almost need it, right? At some level in order to just, be plugged in. And then three, um, yeah, the catch 22, right? All right. So you're revolting, Mr. Employee. You don't want me to use your personal device. So I'll send you one, right? Right? Okay. But then you're arguing that they don't want to drag around two different sets of devices. Well, I don't know, man. I don't know what the middle is then. Because I got to be out.
It's a lose-lose for an IT person, right?
Mhm.
Um, because at the end of the day, they're on the hook for the threat that comes in. And
Sure.
68% of all threats originate from a mobile device.
68. Okay. That's
Right.
pretty high.
So you think about the way that we kind of thought through the mechanism was an MSP, we sign them up as an MSP, they get a multi-tenant console, they plug in today, they plug in, for example, their customers, Microsoft Entra ID.
Sure.
If they punch it in, all of the groups, all the email groups kind of pop up. They
Hmm.
select the groups that they want to send the Aura email to.
Hmm.
Email gets sent over to George with a nice little template that we kind of co-author with the MSP. It says, hey, great news,
Hmm.
right? Well, George then downloads the Aura app, and then George is prompted to create a profile, a personal profile, right? So because we know the corporate email address and you're creating a personal email address, and using Microsoft Entra, we can connect those two things together, right? But what that means is we're very upfront in the beginning about how all of the data that is on your phone stays on your phone. It is not shared with the employer. It is not shared with the MSP. It all stays on your device, which is a critical moment because you're about to go ask them for some pretty important stuff, right? You're going to go ask them for, hey, plug in your social security number, your date of birth, your bank information, and all these other things. Because as a consumer, as an employee, you start to see super cool things. You see a password manager, a VPN, an AV product, dark web monitoring. You get fraud, scam protection for text message, voicemail, and email, right? You're getting data broker removal. You're getting all of those key components as a horse trade from your CISO, your MSP that says, hey, I'm going to give you all of these things that benefit you. As long as you just keep your phone in good security standing, we do a lightweight posture check to make sure it's up to date on the recent iOS, their OS. Um, it's not rooted or jailbroken. There's no malware. Like there's a key things that we'll use in a password, right? And it's like, okay, if you've done these things, you have access to your Office 365 instance, for example. If it isn't, you can remediate on your phone the same way you would want to go solve it on your phone, and we tell you how to do it. Because we've spent almost 10 years in the consumer world, we know how to make the product super easy to use and easy to manage. So I've taken that philosophy into the MSP to say, hey, you don't have to spend a lot of time in here, right? You're setting up the policies. It's like 6 radial buttons. You have great insight into what the product is and how it works. And so you can look at who's actually downloaded the Aura app,
Mm.
who's blocked, even though they haven't downloaded the app. There's a lot of insight. But what we're starting to see MSPs is they're saying, I really like this, but I need help kind of selling this to my customers because I've never really had an opportunity to solve this problem. Right. So we're now what we do is we kind of co-sell with a lot of the MSPs to try to help them shape that conversation to be able to provide more value to their customers.
Okay, so let me just make sure I get this right. So you're taking some of the things that everybody would use in their normal life, right? Like the like identity protection and the spam filter on your phone and like your dark web scan or something. Like you're just taking all of these things that you would find in like various products, right? The data broker thing I love, right? It's like, hey, people, people are selling your phone number, your email address, your home
Yep.
address, right? Like that thing. I love that, by the way, because that's rampant. People don't realize how bad that is. So you're taking all this stuff that I would potentially get as a person signing up for personal services, and we're
Yep.
saying, hey, Mr. Employee, fringe benefit, we're going to give you all this stuff, right? that's the what the benefit to you. In exchange, we just need to make sure you're not super behind on updates on your phone and like it's not in bad shape so that when we do ultimately have you sign into your email, that's not the back door. Did I get all that right?
Correct. And then what we're doing is another angle that was kind of developed by the MSPs, not by us, was one of the MSPs I talked to had said, this is actually helping train the employees to be better security stewards of their own data.
Hmm.
Right. So what they're learning, because I use a terrible analogy, is like I could go online to learn how to be a plumber, right? I
Mhm.
can take the courses. But there's a reason why you have an apprentice to actually do the job for 2 years, to learn the ropes and actually have hands-on practical motions, right? So like everyone's taking these security awareness training courses, and it's really about how fast can you click through the buttons and answer everything correctly with a 5-question quiz at the end, right? And we all applaud. Then you quickly go back to doing what you're doing, and you click on a link that you shouldn't have clicked on, and then it pops up from from IT saying, "Aha, gotcha." You're like, you just got done doing the training. Right. So like I think about myself and our product as almost like the apprentice. You're an active participant in your own personal security. We're letting you know that your password's a week. Your data is coming off of the dark web, right? Your dark web monitoring, we're doing this. We're also in charge of don't click on malicious text messages and answer bad phishing and phone calls and emails. So then I think about it, and we kind of walked through it with some of the MSPs. It's like, okay, if they become good security stewards as an MSP and as an employee, and we say 68% of threats start there, well, now when they're actually inside the network on a managed device, they're statistically, I don't know, but I would assume that they're less likely to click on things that they shouldn't click on.
Yeah, it's just habits, right? It's muscle memory,
Habits.
right? It's
So
like,
you're
hey, if you don't
developing
do it
muscle
here, you
memory.
there.
You're developing some muscle memory as an employee and as an individual, but you're actually indirectly benefiting the company that you work for.
Okay, so the idea here is, I don't know how many people bring in like, tablets, like the iPad, but like cell phones, Android, iOS devices, right? This is the
Yep.
problem that's never really been fixed. Very low adoption. Nobody really has a handle of it. Still today, 2026, not very well adopted for all of the reasons, right? They just don't want it. So you're in this rock and a hard place. So you're if I can use like a cliche, like you're trying to use the carrot instead of the stick.
That's right.
Okay.
It's a great way of thinking about it. It's because otherwise, because if somebody says to you, George, hey, listen, you want to use your personal advice, that's great. I'm going to put an MDM on here. And you go, no. And you're like, well, that's just how we're going to do it. That doesn't feel very good,
Yeah.
right? That doesn't feel good at all. But the moment I say, hey, George, great news. I'm looking to protect my business application. Super important to me and the company. As an exchange, you're going to get these other things that are super cool and will benefit you for the rest of your life. And you go, hold on a second. So I don't have to pay for that? No, you don't have to pay for it. I'm going to subsidize it. I'm going to pay for it because I actually know if I teach you how to be a better security steward, it actually helps me as a company.
Hmm.
Right.
And
And by the way, if you no longer work for that company and you go off somewhere else, you can convert that to a consumer license, and all of that hard work that you put in to kind of keep your history of all of your data broker information, all the credit card information that you put into your app, it's all yours. You keep it.
yeah, this is a similar strategy to like what I've seen with some of the other password manager tools out there, right? It's like, hey, you have your personal, and then like your personal and your business can kind of be combined, but if you leave, you can take your personal, with you kind of thing. Okay, I'm with you. So like, let me go back to the bottom line though. So we agree single digit percentage adoption on a answer historically. Still today, I still believe that to be the case. So you've been selling this into MSP land for a little while.
Yep.
What's the adoption rate?
The adoption rate's been good. I mean, listen, we launched the product, kind of an MVP starting in April. We've made some significant improvements to the tech, even just like this week. Um, we have over 50 MSPs that have signed up that are paying. We're pushing up heavily focused on shifting our sales model to really nurture the MSPs and try to help them with adoption and teach them how to fish. So we're spending a lot of time doing that. But what made it optimistic and why I really wanted to come here in the first place is really what about the first week we were here. we went to like one of the larger shows, and I walked around and I said, okay, I like the concept, but the story's good, but you really don't know until you talk to MSPs.
Yeah.
And we've talked to now at this point thousands of MSPs because we've been to all the great shows, and
Mm.
maybe 5 people are like, not interested. But the other like couple thousand people are like, I love what you're doing. This is a great idea, great concept. I love it. Now it's just our ability to kind of help them kind of convert, to kind of sell it to their customers, to try to teach them that there is actually a way to go solve a really hard problem. And we have a few that are trying to put it into their packages, and how do they put it in their existing services, and they're thinking them a little bit differently on how they can provide like dark web monitoring and scam protection and some of these other services that they historically weren't able to provide all that easily.
Sure. Okay. So we're still trying to get the message out, and we're trying to get people to finally solve a problem that pretty much gave up on, right? Like they were just like, I'm never gonna get them to get past a certain point. Either they don't want to pay for it, or they don't want to adopt it. And so if they don't want to adopt it, they won't pay for it, whichever chicken or the egg. Okay. All right. I'm following you. So I just want to make sure I'm going to go back a little bit. So you said there's the dark web scanning, there's the voice text message spam filtering, there's the remove your personal information from the data broker thing. Did I catch there was a password manager in there?
Yep, we have a personal password manager today that you can use. We have a VPN in there as well.
Okay.
What we're really looked across the market is to say where the company originated at the beginning was like Hari, our CEO, had his identity stolen and tried to go solve
Hmm.
the problem. It was like, I have to go to 7 different places to go fix this. And this is,
Well,
10 years ago. So the world's a lot different
I would
today.
say it's probably worse now, but yeah.
Right. And then now it's like, how do we bring that all into one place so that it's very easy for you to kind of solve the problem? I mean, I get 90 something% less text messages and scam calls. It's awesome. I get notifications all the time that my information is getting taken off of the, data brokers, and we now have access to over 400 data brokers. So like we really spend a lot of time there. And I think or as a company, it's really important because it's doing more than just like the MSP work and thinking about it from a B2B standpoint. It's like I love the fact, and we'll branch this off later into next year of, we do a lot for parental controls for children, right? Looking at
Hmm.
academic predictability, we look at mental health, we look at a lot of those things. We look at, we have or for parents where they look at, how long has your kid been on Instagram, right? We just acquired or merged with a company called Coria that specializes in K-12, and they look at, content filtering and classroom management for kids. So like everything revolves around, we think about it as like wherever you are, whether you're at home, at work, or at school, like we're gonna get you covered from a security standpoint on the personal and corporate side.
Okay. So I counted five tools that just could be a consolidator, right? Potentially, right? And other products that are already out there, right? Together. The MSP part of this is, hey, I want to make sure that the device that the employee is using, probably personal device in most cases, is healthy enough to be the authenticator and like the opening gate, right? Because everybody's using some sort of, even if it's text or voice still, or some sort of authenticator app, right, on their
Yep.
phone. Like that's the beginning, right, of
Yep.
everything else. So what else does the MSP see? Like you said, there's five radials. I just want to make sure I got all that right. The five radials are what? What are the knobs?
Yeah, so they're going to see, is the from a posture check perspective, is that what you're saying? So you're going
Yeah.
to look at it.
Well, just like what does the MSP see from their portal view?
Yeah, so their portal view, they're going to be able to see all of their tenants,
Hmm.
and they're going to look at the actual health and criticality of each one of those tenants. So they can see the number of employees who have downloaded the Aura app, number of employees who are just being blocked without it. They can
Hmm.
see number of critical things that they have to go and address to say you have devices that are out of compliance, and send notifications to the employees to say, listen, you need to remediate this so that you can get, back into your business applications. We also do things like, listen, if George had accidentally deleted the Aura app and he's, in an emergency needs to access something, we can do like an emergency override for 24 hours to allow you to kind of get, to get in and to go do the things you need to do. That's something that an MSP can manage on their own. So stuff that we're also working on is providing a little bit more, to use the kind of the hot words of AI, is give them a lot more intelligence across the landscape of the employees. Like, we're seeing a 30% uplift in scam text messages coming through your entire, organization. Right. So that's, even though we don't know what the text message is, we just know that we've identified like fraudulent, text messages coming in, and you should be aware that that stuff actually happening. We can be proactive and send, email alerts out to individuals to say, hey, listen, this is coming through, be careful.
Okay. That's interesting. So like we're trying to take some a little bit more real time noticing, right? Like first it's, hey, is everything right to begin with? And two, it's, hey, can I give you some visibility into what may be happening in the moment so you can kind of be situationally aware.
Yeah, you get to be kind of proactive with a segment of a device that you never had visibility into. Right.
Got
So
it.
if you look at it across an organization, if you have 100, your customer has 100 employees, and you see a significant spike in some of these known fraud emails that are coming into a corporate domain or even a corporate email address, you could go, hold on one second. Like this is some, this happens when, companies are being acquired. They attack and say, oh, I need a special request for this. We bump into stuff all the time. We bumped into, a customer where the HR person sent over 32 W-2 forms because the CEO sent them a text message. It's like, you always think who falls for this, but you bump into these situations all the time. Right. So if an MSP can be more helpful to their customers to try to be more proactive with some of the, known risks that are coming through like the mobile device vector, that'd be pretty critical to them.
Interesting. Okay. And so you've talked to these thousands of MSPs now, and you've gotten some, kind of progressing it. Are there are they biting? Are the end customers looking at this and saying, you know what, this is a cool value add, or hey, you know what, kind of makes sense. Let me try it on, as the owner, the decision maker on my phone, see how it goes. Like, are you starting to see, like, obviously you've been doing this on the non-business side for a long time, it seems like.
Yeah.
Are the MSP end clients, usually small, medium businesses, piggybacking? Are they adopting?
They're starting to, but I say from a range of when we really started to push on this was probably the last like 60 days, right?
Okay.
I look at the evolution this way. MSPs love the storyline. They understand that it's a problem. They want to go solve the problem, which is great news.
Mm-hmm.
The first step is we set them up as their own tenant, and then they deploy it to a couple of their IT teams, maybe the founder, whoever. And then we work with them on the critical steps to say, okay, you're in this technical validation phase. Like, what do you want this thing to do?
Sure.
Right. So that part of it is where we're in a lot of phases now with MSPs. It's like, okay, I want this to fit into like this package that I want to offer my customers.
Sure.
Okay, great. How do we help you make sure it fits? What do you need it to do? So we're in a lot of those that we're going to be launching at the end of this year.
Okay.
Then we have a bunch of MSPs that have launched it to their customers. Some are small, but then we go back through the MSPs and we say, okay, give me the use case. Like, why'd you do it? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So like I viewed most of like our launch period from say April to now as a giant research project.
Yeah.
Right. So what I do is I take all of the interviews and the meetings that we have, I plug them all into Claude. And then
Mm-hmm.
we basically say, okay, what are they saying? What are they not saying? What do they want? Because the whole purpose of this MSP where it came about was in our employee benefits business where we sell to like MetLife and MetLife sells to brokers. And then we have like Boeing and Pepsi and these other really large where they could provide our solution through employee benefits. There's a lot of MSPs and small to medium sized businesses are like, hey, like how do I provide this to my employees? Right?
Sure.
Or how do I apply this to my company? And we really just even before I joined, they did about 18 months worth of recon and talking to MSPs and saying, tell me what you need this thing to do.
Yeah.
Right. So for us, I like the way that they took the approach and we continued that approach is it's really built by MSPs. It's like you tell us what you need and we will build it that way because there's no sense of us building the way we think it works if we're not MSPs.
Sure. I
Right.
got you.
So I spend a lot of time just kind of working with the MSPs and trying to shape our tech into like their business model to figure what's the best way for them to kind of solve that problem.
Oh, okay. I got it. So right now, you're still taking the pieces from your original consumer product and you're rolling it into this MSP program, but you have like a business line, but the MSP program, and you're building. You're in building mode. You're trying to figure out what makes sense. So, um, what is the profile of partner? I mean, do you even know yet? Like,
Yeah.
who are you specifically trying to work with from an MSP shape, size, form?
So I think right now the early adopters are, MSPs that are servicing many customers that are sub 100 employees,
Okay,
right? That's an easy one because you have essentially a customer that doesn't have the security staff. They don't really have the IT staff, but yet they are trying to solve a pretty big problem. And everybody has a BYOD device because no one of that size is buying 100 iPhone 17s. No one's doing it.
sure.
So those are the easy ones where we go into the MSP and say, okay, you're going to go solve this problem. I'm going to do it with you. That's a good one.
Yeah,
Then we also have significant MSPs that have hundreds of thousands of endpoints that are also trying to solve this problem as well. And then about that is more of a strategic pricing and packaging play that you have to figure out how to push that out a little bit more thoughtful there because their customers tend to be much larger.
yeah,
So what I did find interesting, whether you're a 5-person dental office or you've got 5,000 employees, the problem still persists. It's just, I think the security stack gets more complicated the higher up you go, and where does our technology really fit into that? Is what
fair.
we've been working through.
No, you're right. You're 100% right. So because you're so early into the program's probably going to morph. But today, is this being offered from a pricing packaging standpoint on like a per employee basis, or is it a per end customer basis, or is it like,
Yeah.
hey, the MSP has like a minimum buy-in? Like, how did you
No,
structure?
I mean, I didn't want to do a minimum because I think that's just, I want the value to be in the product and I want MSPs to deploy it and use it. I feel like when you put minimums out there, you're kind of hoping some MSPs don't use the product as much as they should, but you want to capture the dollars anyway. Like to me, that
Sure,
doesn't make any sense.
sure, sure.
Um, we license it per employee, right? So, if very simple methodology, in arrears at the highest watermark, and you go push out 100 emails last month, then you're going to pay for 100 licenses. If you push out 95 the next month, or that's how many you have 95, we pay for 95,
Okay.
right? And we're early, but at the end of the day, like we've still signed up like TD Synnex and Climb as really large distribution. We're working closer with Pax8 and some of the other. We have partnerships with ConnectWise, so we have the right partnerships in place. It's it's about getting some of the velocity down.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, I'm with you. So obviously your goal is to get the MSP to use it with their employees internally just to show them it works, right?
It's mostly they just test it with their own staff, right? Like,
Okay.
I mean, we're not even selling to the MSP to have it used for their personal employees. They can choose to do that. I mean, we're happy to help them do that. But it's really about the mechanics of how do we get their customers to use it.
No, I get it. I mean,
Yeah.
usually there's a try before you sell to your customers
And that's what they're
basis,
doing
right?
today. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So if I'm an MSP and I want to say, you know what? Sounds cool, sounds interesting. I'll put the app on my phone. Let's see how it works. Where do they start?
So they could just hop onto the website and they could do a contact us. We'll reach out. We'll work with them, get them provisioned and get set up, and we'll work with them to set up their first tenant, even if the tenants themselves, and get them up and running.
Awesome. And the website is aura.com.
/business, and you'll be right on the MSP page.
All right. So if you're listening to the audio version of this, Aura, aura.com/business, right?
Yep.
So that goes to but I mean, I was even just poking around on my second screen here and I was checking out like your original, like your consumer product, right?
Yeah.
And the first thing I saw was, hey, $1 million identity theft coverage. I'm like, oh, okay, there we go. Like,
Yep.
I see where we started, right? Like, I was going backwards and I was thinking, oh, that's right. The guy got his identity stolen, CEO, and so he started building the answer. Got it.
Yep. And then
Um,
that's the thing. It's like, when we talk to MSPs, it's like this isn't a new product. Like the product itself as its core has been around for 10 years. Right.
Yeah.
The only thing that's, I would say, relatively on the newer side is we had to build a multi-tenant console that has a value add to an MSP.
Right.
And then you have to go and build all of the reasons why an MSP would want to manage this and use this and add value to their customers. That's the fun part. That's when you talk to all the MSPs and say, hey, what would you think would be an unbelievable, vanity metric that could benefit you in talking to your customers? Because wouldn't it be great if you had a report that you could send your client to say, we blocked over 22,000 scam text messages last month.
Yeah, those types of hey, summary reports at the end of the month always hit. It's just people don't do them regularly because it's too hard to calculate.
All right. Well, that's why we're trying to push out the automation, make it easy for MSPs. And again, taking that, consumer profile of easy to use, easy to manage and bringing it to an MSP. Listen, the MSP is not looking for more interfaces to be in.
No. Feel like there's unlimited of those though.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, listen, you're right. I mean, obviously you've been working there, but like it's a pretty competitive solution, right? For an individual who have signed up for other services, right? That actually there's like 10 things, right? That like for me as George the individual, forget, George the worker of a business, like I probably have three or four different companies that either give me some of these, right? Like your credit card, give your credit card app probably does your credit score, right? Check or
Yep.
but the identity theft protection, the um there's an antivirus that says it's built in, a VPN that says it's built in, a call text spam blocker says it's built in, a password manager it says it's built in. I mean, this is a combination of three or four different things that I'm using on separate things, right? And I'm
Yep.
just kind of merging it together. Then you throw in the credit monitoring, then you throw in the $1 million of protection, right? Like identity theft protection. Like this is a competitive solution too. I'm not trying to sell for your competitors. Like this is a LifeLock competitive solution.
Yeah, and I'll be nice, but we do a very good job against the LifeLocks of the world on the employee benefit side of the house and the consumer side. And then we do a really good job on the MSP end of like you piecing all of those different vendors together that are trying to do it on the corporate side.
Hmm.
It's no one needs another streaming subscription to pay for. And
That's
that's the part where it's like you are doing a little bit of that consolidation to say, well, why would I pay for data broker removal when you do that, plus you do dark web monitoring, plus you do, scam protection.
Yeah, back I I hear a lot about like the government's approach to like robo dialing and mass spam, right? Like I get looped into a lot of that, conversation. And there's some pretty extreme things coming, but regardless, like basically your cell phone or your telco account is basically a bank account now. Like
Yep.
ID checks and social security, or tax ID number checks. Like it's becoming like basically the same amount of documentation you need to open up a bank account. You're gonna need to open up a telco account. But I dig
Yep.
a lot of the reason why that stuff is so easily accessible are the data brokers.
Yep.
I don't think people understand like where did these data brokers get all their information? Well, let me bring a current event up to you. Spirit Airlines, right? I think we all know who they are. If you didn't hear about them, you just go online and watch Spirit Airlines fights. They're all over the internet, YouTube, etc. So they went bankrupt, right? And so I think it was just last week, $10 million. I think Google bought all of their transactional data, email communication, chat messages, all of it to
Yeah.
train their AI.
Yeah.
And like, there's a lot of information there that is specific to you, right? Where did you fly? Who was on your reservation? Where did you go? What cities? What times?
Right.
And like your paying, what accounts did you use to pay for this, right? Like, contact information, right? Like all of that was part of this. Hey, I'm paying you $10 million as part of the bankruptcy proceedings for the value of this data. And I don't think that people realize there's a lot of things collecting this information on you, right? Like your smart TV collects data on what you watch
Yeah.
and they sell it, right? The browser companies, the search engine companies, for years, I'm sure everybody knows it by now, have been creating profiles on you to see what you do on the internet. They've been selling it, right? The cell phone companies collect your location data on like what towers you go in between, and they sell them.
Yeah.
And so this brokerage thing, I don't think people realize how they get that data is like the stuff that you're already paying for, they turn around and they sell your information because you've opted in because you don't read the 800 pages of terms of service.
That's right.
And that is how these data brokers get all of this information that they then sell to anybody who's willing to pay for it.
And that's why the value on our end is like, let us do it. Right. So we already have your information. You voluntarily put it into our app. We're proactively going after over 400 data brokers. We continually do it to make sure if it's removed. We do it another 30 days later, make sure it stays removed, and we continue after that. Our call protection is if it's not a phone number that's in your contacts, it just doesn't go through, it gets quarantined, right? So there's other ways to kind of circumvent that, right? But it's like taking all of that. Imagine a world where like your phone only rang when it was the people that you knew.
It's almost like how it used to be.
That's right. That's right. So like that's the thing. It's like, we know that that fight is hard because I think again, people want passwords that they can remember that are easy.
Mhm.
They're putting information all over the internet because everything has a, phone number, email address, name, first name, last name. Everything is you're signing up for. It doesn't matter what you're doing. And it's like that information, to your point, it just gets bought and sold across the globe, and people can do things that are bad with it. People do things that are good with it. But at the end of the day, you as an individual have cannot fight that. You're never going to do it. I actually don't even know how to go reach out to a data broker and go solve the problem, even if it did happen to me. Right.
Very
So
manually, I think,
yeah,
and
but to
time
go
consumingly.
and then what? You're going to do it another 30 days later because they only have to remove it for 30 days and they can put it back on.
Oh, that's horrible.
Right. So it's like you're going to continue that fight, your full-time job. So that whole purpose of, why I'm, happy that Hari kind of threw all this stuff together is like, well, now we just make it very easy for the employee to manage all of this, give them time back. And, my team and I, we had a conversation with an MSP, and I was like, if someone's identity gets stolen, for example,
Mhm.
when do you think they're solving that problem? Before and after work or during
No,
work?
during
Right?
work.
Right, because they just want to get it done. They don't really care what's going on. So like there's elements of, there's these, soft ROIs that you can get back as a business owner that says it is worth it for me to have put this in the hands of my employees
Mm.
because it does help me have better security posture on my other end on accessing my business applications and being able to put those layers of security in. And if you know what, the stuff that we're working on now is from a compliance standpoint is looking at the CMMC, all these other compliances. Like, well, now they're start all of them are now getting into like personal devices for the workplace.
So what could be, I'm like, just as I'm hearing it, right? I'm thinking like what I think, right? I mean, so when I would assume, because I've seen other apps do this, right? In order to do the data broker dark web scan check, you got to put in like, here are my addresses, here are my email addresses, here are my phone numbers, here are the variations of my name, right? And then like, I've even seen a couple of them like ask for like, hey, relatives' names, right? So that like if it cross sections you with somebody else that
Yep.
lives at your address or that you're related to. Like, I would hope, and I know there's bits and pieces of products, but usually they're not putting their work information into those searches, right?
Yep.
Their work number, their work email, right? That kind of thing. And so, like, from the businesses side, they probably have all of that non-personal information, right? I already know your phone number, your extension number, your email address, your sign-in information, whatever, because I need to do that in order to administer all the work apps. It would probably be worthwhile to run the scans that you're doing on the personal information
Yep.
also on the work information.
So you can plug in your work email address as an alternative email.
Hmm.
Right.
I
So
bet you they're not.
they're not, and that's one of the things that we're trying to give more power to the MSP is take like the Active Directory of their corporate email addresses, plug them into their interface, and be able to do that element of the, data broker removal, dark web stuff, and be able to give the MSP a little bit more control over that side of the house.
Yeah, because I'm thinking out loud, and it happens all the time, right? Especially with like the autofill, right? Hey, I
Yep.
went to go sign up for an app. It just because I use my work email a lot, it used that information to sign
Yep.
into the non-work app because it just auto put it in, and I didn't look because I was doing it on the fast.
Yep.
And like all of a sudden, the next hey, so and so, data breach alert, and now that's information being sold legally or illegally. And
Yep,
all of a sudden now there's works, addresses put into that, right? And now like that's not the part you're probably looking for.
that's right.
So something to think about as I'm talking out loud, just zooming out into what this does. But the data broker thing, the dark web scan, I know we've all in MSP land heard about dark web scan, but the data broker thing is real.
Yep,
Actually, I would, back, to your point, if there's less people buying lists with your information on it, there's less people calling and texting you.
that's right.
That's how they got your number to begin with. But then hey, I'm just gonna block everything. Yeah, like I'm sure we've all seen it. Hey, this is a spam text. Report as spam and delete. Just never seems to work.
No.
Like it never
No.
seems to stop anything. I don't know who's getting the report, but
No,
I
it's
don't think
like
it's
those websites when you just click like unsubscribe. Like my favorite thing to do in my emails, unsubscribe to things,
right.
right? And then there's just some you get infuriated with. It's like I've hit this button 10 times. Clearly you're not doing this legally. So these are all frustrations that employees see. These are frustrations that, companies have seen. And it's nice to have like a cool piece of technology that you get to have a positive conversation with MSPs about solving a real world problem. What's nice about it is I'm not trying to be 1% better than a heavily saturated market and trying to squeeze my way in. It's right now we're in this kind of evangelized motion of training and educating MSPs that there's an alternative to the way that you've been doing it before, and then understanding like how they would like us to do it, what are the better ways, and we kind of follow those instructions. But I think the early on part is like, okay, who do you compete against? We're like, well, it depends on how you're thinking about the product, right? Are you thinking about it through data broker, dark web scam? Are you thinking about it from application blocking? It depends.
Yeah, you definitely overlap the edges of a bunch of different solutions for sure.
Right.
I think the power in your solution, which is probably why you guys, kind of jump the aisle to get into MSP land is, hey, you've been doing this for so long for individuals, right? Like, and you've been offering it as an employee benefit for major corporations. How do you get into this middle of the road, right? Individual, mega corporation, MSPs, right? Sit in between and their clients. So, yeah, I agree with you. There's probably some new things that you probably aren't doing today that you're going to be putting into your product because you're getting the feedback, right? For
Yeah,
sure.
exciting.
It's
Well,
cool.
it's fun to build the things that MSPs are looking for. And like I said before, it's not like we just sit in a dark room and build things that we think are neat. It's all been sponsored by MSPs. Say, I have an idea. Why don't you do this? Right. So I don't know. It's a great way to build the product and share product roadmaps with MSPs when it goes, oh, like 10 of my friends are asking for the same thing and it's on the list. So it's cool
Yeah.
to see.
No, that's awesome. I do like the carrot versus the stick approach. And I totally agreed with your example of, hey, we all hit next, 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 did the quiz, and then went away from the security training. You probably right. But hey, I'm giving you something that you would otherwise had to have paid for on your own as
Yeah.
I'm giving you value to get you to buy in rather than trying to force your
Yeah.
hand, right? So I think that that's probably the better approach if you're going to get something out of it.
It's great because it's just frictionless. Like it is, a friend of mine always said is like, listen, if are you looking to save money? Nobody says no, right? So it's kind of like that motion of like, are you looking to have a better, strengthen your security posture? Like, yes. Like it just everybody wants that. It's kind of people just see the value in the way that they look at their personal security these days.
Mhm.
I mean, to your point, I mean, there's now, Microsoft is completely changing the way they did it. I was trying to get onto my Microsoft like Hotmail account. Yes, I'm old enough to have a Hotmail account. I couldn't figure out what direction this little animation thing was going because they were having like this robots, but it was so small I couldn't actually see what the thing actually was. And I'm trying to figure, I got it wrong like 4 times. I was like, I'm 51 years old. I've seen this. I know how to do this. And I'm, like, so they're fighting it so many ways, to make it harder to access anything, so,
Yeah,
and, as a consumer, I don't know how people keep up with it. I'm in the space and sometimes
they
it's hard.
don't. They just
You
don't.
know,
They just get they're just the next person that gets hit. That's what it is.
that's
One
it. So
one thing, if you haven't looked into it, just a drive-by thought. a lot of the people for longest time in cybersecurity land talked about like the insurance questionnaires and what they think is good. And there's always a lag, right? Because whoever isn't, their consultants and their technology people, right? There's always a delay in what they think's good and the next renewal, all that jazz. Um, I don't think what you guys saw for has gotten there yet, right? Like to what the business insurance policy is looking for, right? But
Getting there.
it is a super, super value, right? Because, you know, I think what people don't think about, and I hate to talk about the doomsday scenario, but hard to avoid it at some point, is usually if you're an employer and you hold information and you yourselves, let's say the MSP even has a data breach, your employees can sue you if their data gets breached, right? Like
Right.
think about the information you're holding on them, their social security number, their driver's license number, their health insurance, whatever, right? You don't think about that, but the same thing that you're supposed to be helping your end customer for, Mr. MSP, get protected for, right? Like you are also in the same boat. So to go ahead of the game and say, hey, I don't know if your $1 million of identity theft protection applies on the business side, but let's say it did hypothetically, and you gave that to your employee as part of the benefits of working for the company as part of this exchange, carrot versus the stick. One would argue you've put a layer of protection in place so that if you did have an incident, I hope you don't, but let's say you did, this identity theft insurance is in place. And like that's something that most people don't have in place proactively.
Yeah.
Did I say all that right? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think we're also looking at it, and we're working with a few of the corporate cyber insurance and cyber warranty companies that are now part of their underwriting is talking
Mm,
more about the security of BYOD.
yeah.
And that's coming for a lot of MSPs, a lot of SMBs. And it's just going to be one of those things where like go back to my original statement of like, okay, everyone's getting MDM now, and
Hmm.
you're going to get a lot of ticked off employees going, why don't I didn't sign up for this?
Hmm.
Right. So it's nice to be part of those conversations around the table of some of these larger, cyber warranty, cyber insurance companies that are trying to be proactive in pushing our technology into the hands of those types of folks.
Yeah, I mean, because to me, right, like I'm sure you've gotten it, Jason, right? 50, something years old. Like it's, hey, have you used Ticketmaster? Well, your data may have been breached. Here's 1 year of credit monitoring. And it's like,
Right.
what does that do for me? Like, really
Right.
honestly, like,
Right. Right. And the mechanics are click this link, sign up, download an app, do this thing, and then they're going to charge you for it. And it's like, I didn't even know this was coming. Now, what would be good? Now, what's good is if you're a consumer, you're on the employee benefit side, and we do the credit score monitoring and fraudulent transactions and stuff like that. Is like we notify you that that actually had already happened,
like that,
right? So
like
it's like you
that.
don't have to do anything. We just told you you already have it.
I actually, as we've been talking, and I would hope as the MSPs that you've talked to, right, like the wheels start turning, and I'm starting to see where the value gaps are, right, and where you're starting to plug holes. And I will tell you this, and I'm sure I'm not no surprise here. There is a lot of areas here that usually don't get discussed in the realm of the MSP's world. Like these are things that, have been just assumed as not their problem.
Yeah, I mean, when we started this back in even October, not the naysayers, but it was really MSPs like, why do I care about the employee? My responsibility is to protect the company that pays me.
Hmm.
And it's like, okay, I hear that, but understanding now that the trend has been more so the employee is the threat.
Hmm.
So if you can proactively get ahead of that, then you're really doing a much better job at protecting the company, which actually makes your job a lot easier.
You're solving the problem earlier in the process so that it doesn't balloon later on, right? Like I
Right.
follow what you're saying.
Right.
No, I like it. Guys, aura.com/business. And Jason and his team, like talk to an expert, you click a button, you set up a time to talk to somebody, just check it out. But before you even like get there, just check out their like regular product, right? Their normal non-business product. Just get an idea, right? Like 10 years, that's forever in technology land. I think everybody knows that. There are a lot of good things here. And that'll give you the idea of the stuff they're trying to bring into the conversation. And then well, obviously they're building on it, right?
Yeah.
So I see where they're going. This is good. at the beginning, I'm like, how does this apply? I got a much better picture now, and I think there is a lot of apply. And what I like what's coming probably next, Jason, because if you've already gotten the people at the employee side to agree that there's a net benefit to them to go down the road, the stuff that comes after this is easier to implement.
Yep.
And I think that's the road, like that starts down the highway that you want to be on. So I'm with you, because otherwise, guys, you send me a message if you disagree. Single digit percentage adoption on any sort of device monitoring, BYOD.
Yep.
Uh, if you have double digits, you are in a very small group, in my
Yep.
opinion. Unless it's a corporately owned device, you're in a very small group.
Yep. Agreed.
100%. Jason, thanks for jumping on. Guys, this is a really great session. I know I've seen these guys out all year, right? So like I was, kind of paying attention from afar. I'm glad I did this session. Um, I assume we'll see, like there's still a bunch of stuff towards the end of the year. Are we gonna see you guys out on the road anywhere?
I mean, we're busy. We have a bunch of places we're going to be at. So
Okay.
we're going to, if it's a MSP show, we're most likely going to be there.
Awesome. So Aura, keep your eye on them. They have a cool green logo. I know they have a, I think I was doing an MSP event at the Red Sox earlier this year, and I think you guys have a suite there, right?
Yeah, we got a couple, and it's like where, that was one of the things when I came here, and I was like, okay, like I understand, okay, we have Red Sox sponsorship, but I was like, I didn't know it was everywhere. We have like the Aura Club, we have Aura billboards, but hey,
I walked by. I was like, wait a minute, I know that logo.
I know I'm trying to get an Aura for business up there, not just Aura business.
There you go. Got it. That's Jason's division. All right,
That's it.
guys, check it out. Jason, thanks for jumping on. Definitely want to grab a drink next time I see you on the road.
Do it.
For everyone else, take a look. Sounds like there's a lot of, feedback, mode right now, but I almost might just go try it myself, and to be
Send
honest.
me an email.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks for jumping on this podcast or listening to it after the fact. Again, you know where all these are parked. MSPinitiative.com, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.